Have you ever been at a party or in a cafe or at work and you wanted to talk to someone but you didn't know what to say? So you stayed quiet. You stayed in the corner. And later you felt bad because you missed your chance. If this sounds familiar, don't worry. Today we're going to talk about something really important: how to talk to anyone with confidence. Hi everyone, I'm Sadie and welcome to Artificial Fluency Podcast. Before we begin, I want to say something from my heart. I upload new videos to our channel every day for you to learn and grow. Don't forget to support me so I can continue doing this. You can help me see our channel in front of more people by subscribing, becoming a member, liking, and commenting on each of my videos. Please don't forget to do these. Thank you so much for being here. So let's talk about confidence. Specifically, confidence when speaking English with other people. I know this is hard. I know it can feel scary. Maybe you think your English isn't good enough. Maybe you're afraid of making mistakes. Maybe you think other people will judge you. But here's what I want you to know. Confidence is not about being perfect. Confidence is about being brave enough to try. Today, I'm going to share simple, practical ideas that will help you feel more comfortable talking to anyone in English. We'll talk about how to start conversations, what to say, how to listen better, and how to feel less nervous. I'll speak slowly and clearly so you can understand everything. Your job is simple. Just relax and listen. Let the English come into your ears naturally. Are you ready? Let's begin. If you liked this lesson, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you can keep improving your English with us. First, let's talk about what confidence really means. A lot of people think confidence means you never feel afraid. They think confident people never feel nervous or worried. But that's not true. Let me tell you a secret. Confident people feel afraid too. They feel nervous. They worry about saying something wrong. The difference is this: they speak anyway. Confidence doesn't mean you have no fear. Confidence means you do it even when you're afraid. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I was younger, I had to give a presentation in front of many people. I was so nervous. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating fast. I thought, what if I forget what to say? What if people think I sound stupid? But I did it anyway. I walked up to the front, I took a deep breath, and I started speaking. Did I make mistakes? Yes. Did I forget some words? Yes. But I finished. And afterward, people came up to me and said, "Great job." I wasn't perfect, but I was confident enough to try. That's what confidence is. It's not about being perfect. It's about being okay with not being perfect. Now, let's talk about something many English learners do. They compare themselves to other people. They think, that person speaks English so well. I sound terrible compared to them. Or they think, everyone here is better than me. I should just stay quiet. This is called the comparison trap, and it's very dangerous. Why? Because when you compare yourself to others, you always feel bad. You always feel like you're not good enough. But here's the truth. Everyone is at a different level. Everyone has different experiences. Some people have studied English for 10 years. some people for 2 years. Some people grew up speaking English at home. It doesn't matter. The only question that matters is, can you communicate? Can you share your ideas? Can you connect with the other person? If the answer is yes, then you're doing great. You don't need to be the best. You just need to be you. So here's what I want you to remember. No one is above you, and you're not above anyone else. We're all just people trying to connect. When you believe this, something amazing happens. You stop feeling nervous, you stop trying to sound smart or perfect, you just talk, and that's when real conversation happens. Let me tell you another important thing. The goal of conversation is not to impress people. The goal is to connect with people. What's the difference? When you try to impress someone, you think about yourself. You think, do I sound good? Am I using the right words? What does this person think of me? This makes you nervous. It makes you speak slowly. It makes you forget words. But when you try to connect with someone, you think about them. You think, what can I share? What do they want to talk about? How can we understand each other? This feels completely different. It feels natural. It feels easy. I remember one time I was at a cafe and I started talking to someone from another country. Their English wasn't perfect. My understanding of their accent wasn't perfect either. But we connected. We laughed. We shared stories. We understood each other. It wasn't about perfect grammar. It was about connection. So remember this. You stop speaking to impress and start speaking to express. You stop trying to show off and start trying to share. That's when English becomes real. That's when it becomes fun. Okay, so now you understand what confidence is. But you might be thinking, Sadie, I understand all this, but what do I actually say? How do I start a conversation? Great question. Let's talk about that. First, I want to share a simple trick that really helps. Prepare a conversation toolbox. What's a conversation toolbox? It's a mental list of simple things you can talk about. Before you go to a party or a meeting or any social event, take 2 minutes to think, what happened this week that I could share? Maybe you watched an interesting movie. Maybe you tried a new restaurant. Maybe something funny happened at work. Maybe you learned something new. Write these things down in your phone if it helps. Just small notes like funny thing at work or new coffee shop. These are your conversation tools. When someone asks, "So, what's new?" or "How are you?" you don't need to think. You just open your toolbox and pick something to share. This simple preparation makes a huge difference. Your mind doesn't go blank. You feel ready. Now let's talk about how to actually start a conversation with someone you don't know. A lot of people think they need to say something deep or interesting or smart, but that's not true. The best way to start a conversation is with something simple, something small. This is called small talk. And I know a lot of people say, I hate small talk, it's boring. But small talk is actually very important. Why? Because it's like opening a door. You don't walk into someone's house through the window, right? You knock on the door first. You say hello first. Then, slowly, you go inside. Small talk is the same. It's the knock on the door. It's the hello. It opens the conversation so you can go deeper later. So, what do you say for small talk? The easiest thing is to talk about what's around you. Look at your environment. Is it raining outside? You can say, "Wow, it's really raining today." Is there good music playing? You can say, "I like this song. Do you know it?" Are you waiting in a long line? You can say, "Wow, this line is so long. It feels like we're waiting for concert tickets, not coffee." These are called icebreakers. They break the ice. They make it easier to start talking. Let me give you a real example from my life. I was once at a bus stop, waiting for the bus. There was another person there, and we were both just standing in silence. Then I noticed they had a book. So I said, "Oh, are you reading that? I heard it's really good." And just like that, we started talking. They told me about the book. I told them about a book I was reading. We talked until the bus came. It was simple. It was natural. All because I started with a small observation. So remember, you don't need a perfect opening line. You don't need to be clever. Just notice something and say it out loud. The weather, the music, something they're wearing, something you're both experiencing. That's all you need. If you liked this lesson, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you can keep improving your English with us. Now, I want to talk about something really important, something that most people don't think about when they think about conversation. Listening. Most people think conversation is about talking, about what you say, about finding the right words. But actually, the most important skill in conversation is listening. When I learned this, it changed everything for me. Let me explain what I mean. There are two types of listening. The first type is listening to reply. This is when someone is talking, but you're not really paying attention. You're just waiting for them to finish so you can say your thing. You're thinking about what you're going to say next. You're preparing your response. You're not really hearing them. This happens a lot, and people can feel it. They can feel when you're not really listening. The second type is listening to understand. This is when you really pay attention. You try to understand not just their words, but their feelings, their meaning. You're not thinking about what you'll say next. You're just there, present, listening. This is called listening with intent, and it's powerful. When you listen with intent, people feel it. They feel heard. They feel understood, and they want to talk to you more. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone says, "I went to Italy last month." If you're listening to reply, you might think, "Oh, I should tell them about my trip to Spain." And you're not really hearing about their Italy trip. But if you're listening to understand, you notice their emotion. Do they sound excited, nostalgic, tired? And you respond to that feeling. You might say, "Wow, you sound really happy about it. What was your favorite part?" See the difference? One response is about you. The other response is about them. And when people feel heard, they open up. The conversation becomes real. There's also a technique called mirroring that helps a lot. Mirroring means you repeat back what someone said in a slightly different way. For example, if someone says, "I finally took that trip to Italy," you can say, "Oh, so you finally went to Italy. How was it?" This does two things. First, it shows you were listening. Second, it encourages them to say more. People love when you mirror them. It makes them feel understood. I'll give you a personal story about this. I once met someone at a conference. They started telling me about their job, and honestly, I didn't understand everything they were saying. It was a technical job, and I didn't know the terms. But instead of pretending to understand or just nodding and saying, I used mirroring. They said, I work in data analysis for healthcare systems. I said, oh, so you analyze data for hospitals and health companies. They said, exactly. And what I really love about it is... And they continued. They were happy to explain more because they felt I was really trying to understand. By the end of our conversation, I learned so much. And they said, it was so nice talking to you. All because I listened with intent and used mirroring. So, here's my advice. In your next conversation, try this. Really listen. Don't think about what you'll say next. Just listen. And then mirror back what you heard. Repeat their idea in your own words. You'll be amazed at how much better your conversations become. And here's the beautiful thing. When you focus on listening, you stop worrying about your English. You stop thinking, am I speaking correctly? Do I sound good? Instead, you're thinking about them. You're focused on understanding and connecting. And ironically, this makes your English better. Why? Because you're relaxed. You're natural. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just being human. Now let's talk about something that many people forget about. How to end a conversation. A lot of people know how to start a conversation, but they don't know how to finish it. So what happens? They just disappear. They walk away without saying anything, or they let the conversation die in awkward silence. This doesn't feel good for anyone. Confident people know how to end conversations with grace. What does grace mean? It means politely, kindly, and smoothly. Let me give you some simple phrases you can use to end conversations in a nice way. It's been great talking to you. I should get going. Or, I'm going to grab a coffee, but it was nice catching up. I need to make a phone call, but let's talk again soon. I see my friend over there. I'll talk to you later. These phrases do a few things. First, they're polite. You're not being rude or cold. Second, they're clear. The other person knows the conversation is ending. Third, they leave a good impression. You're saying, I enjoyed this, but I need to go now. That's respectful and honest. I'll share a story about why this matters. When I was younger, I was at a networking event. I was talking to someone, and the conversation was starting to feel finished. We had talked about everything we wanted to talk about. But I didn't know how to end it, so I just stood there, and they stood there, and we both felt awkward. Finally, they said, well, I should go say hi to some other people. It was nice meeting you. And I thought, why didn't I say that? That was perfect. From that moment on, I always prepared a few phrases to end conversations, and it made everything so much easier. Now I never feel trapped in a conversation. I can enjoy talking to someone and then smoothly say goodbye when it's time. This is an important skill because if you can start conversations with warmth and end them with grace, people will always enjoy talking to you. They'll remember you as someone who is friendly, confident, and respectful. Now let's talk about the most important thing, practice. I know you've heard this before. Practice, practice, practice. It sounds boring, right? But here's the truth. Confidence is a muscle. You build it by using it. When I first started learning another language, I was so nervous to speak. I would freeze, I would overthink, I would stay quiet. But then I realized the only way to stop feeling awkward is to go through the awkward. What does that mean? It means you have to accept that the beginning is always hard. It's always a bit uncomfortable. It's like learning to ride a bike. At first, you have training wheels. You're slow, you're careful, you're terrified of falling. But you keep trying, and eventually the training wheels come off, and you're riding. Speaking English is the same. At first, it's slow, it's careful, it's scary, but you keep doing it, and eventually it becomes natural. The good news? You don't need to practice for hours every day. You don't need to have long, deep conversations with strangers every day. You just need small moments. Ask the cashier at the store, "How's your day going?" Say thank you to the bus driver in a full sentence. Make small talk with a coworker. Comment on someone's dog when you're walking. These small moments add up. Each one builds your confidence a little bit more. I call this growing one hello at a time. Every time you say hello, every time you start a small conversation, every time you push yourself just a little bit outside your comfort zone, you grow. And here's something really important I want you to know. Mistakes are good. I know that sounds strange. We all want to avoid mistakes. We're afraid of looking stupid. But think about it this way. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. Mistakes mean you're challenging yourself. Mistakes mean you're learning. I remember one time I was speaking in another language, and I used the wrong word. I said something that didn't make any sense. The person I was talking to looked confused, and I felt embarrassed. But then they laughed, in a kind way, not a mean way, and they helped me learn the right word. And you know what? I never forgot that word. Because I made a mistake, it stuck in my memory. If I had stayed quiet, if I had been too afraid to speak, I wouldn't have learned anything. So here's what I want you to remember. Every mistake is a teacher. Every awkward moment is practice. Every time you speak, even if it's not perfect, you're improving. The feeling of making a mistake doesn't hurt as much as the feeling of staying silent. Because when you stay silent, nothing changes. You stay stuck. You stay afraid. But when you speak, even if you make mistakes, you move forward. You grow. You become more confident. We've been talking for almost 30 minutes now about confidence, about starting conversations, about listening, about ending gracefully, about practice and mistakes. And maybe some of what I said made sense to you. Maybe some of it gave you ideas. I hope it did. Because here's what I want you to know. You can do this. You can talk to anyone with confidence. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having perfect grammar or knowing every word. It's about being brave. It's about trying. It's about connecting. Let me leave you with a simple challenge. This week, have one small conversation in English. Just one. Maybe it's with a coworker. Maybe it's with a stranger at a coffee shop. Maybe it's with someone in your English class. Use one of the ideas we talked about today. Start with a simple observation. Listen with intent. Mirror what they say. End with grace. Just try it. See what happens. I promise you, it won't be as scary as you think. And even if it feels awkward, that's okay. That's normal. That's part of learning. The more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you practice, the more confident you become. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, one conversation at a time. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being brave enough to learn, to try, to grow. I believe in you. I believe you can talk to anyone with confidence. You just need to start. So go out there, take a deep breath, and say hello. You've got this. This is Sadie, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember, you're doing better than you think. Talk to you soon. Have you ever met someone who speaks English fluently and you thought to yourself, they're so lucky, they're just naturally good at languages. I could never do that. Well, I have good news and bad news for you. The bad news, that's not true. There's no such thing as being naturally good at conversation. The good news, that means you can do it too. Anyone can, including you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sadie, and welcome to today's episode of Artificial Fluency Podcast. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to say something from my heart. I upload new videos to our channel every day for you to learn and grow. Don't forget to support me so I can continue doing this. You can help me see our channel in front of more people by subscribing, becoming a member, liking, and commenting on each of my videos. Please don't forget to do these. Thank you so much for being here with me today. So, let's talk about something that frustrates almost every English learner at some point. Conversation. You know what I mean, right? You can read English, you understand grammar rules, you've learned thousands of vocabulary words. You can write emails, take tests, maybe even watch movies with subtitles. But then someone speaks to you in English and your mind goes blank. The words won't come out. You think too slowly. You translate in your head. You make mistakes and feel embarrassed. And you wonder, will I ever be able to just talk? Today, I want to have an honest conversation with you about what it really takes to develop conversation skills. Not theory, not complicated methods, just the core principles that actually work. I'm going to speak naturally, like we're having coffee together. Your job is simple. Just listen. Let the English flow over you. Don't stress about catching every single word. Focus on the ideas, the stories, the feeling of the conversation. This is how you train your ear. This is how you improve. Are you ready? Get comfortable, and let's talk about conversation. If you liked this lesson, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you can keep improving your English with us. Let me start by telling you something that might surprise you. There is no such thing as a language person. I know, you've probably met people who seem naturally talented at languages. They pick up new words easily. They speak without fear. They sound fluent after just a few months. And you think, I'm not like them. I'm not good at this. Maybe I just don't have the talent. But here's what I want you to understand. Those people aren't talented. They're practiced. Think about it this way. Imagine two people want to learn to play the piano. Person A sits down at the piano once a week for 2 hours. They practice intensely, get frustrated, and leave exhausted. Person B sits down at the piano for 15 minutes every single day. They practice consistently, make small improvements, and gradually build skill. After 6 months, who plays better? Obviously, person B. Because piano isn't a talent, it's a skill. You develop it through consistent practice. Conversation is exactly the same. The people who seem naturally good at English, they're not special. They just practiced more. They spoke more. They made more mistakes. They kept going when it was hard. That's it. That's the secret. Every single person who speaks English fluently started exactly where you are now. They couldn't speak either, They thought slowly. They searched for words. They felt embarrassed. But they didn't stop. And here's what happened. Their brain slowly learned the patterns. Their mouth got used to the sounds. Their confidence grew. And eventually, conversation became automatic. Not because they became talented overnight, because they practiced enough for it to become automatic. So, if you take nothing else from this conversation, remember this. You can do this. You're not broken. You're not bad at languages. You're just learning a skill. And like any skill, it takes time and practice. But it works. I promise you, it works. Okay, so if conversation is a skill we can learn, what's the first step? The answer might surprise you. Listening. Not speaking, listening. I know that sounds backwards. You want to improve your speaking, so shouldn't you focus on speaking? But here's how language actually works in your brain. It enters through the ears before it comes out of the mouth. Think about how babies learn their first language. They don't start by speaking, they start by listening. For the first year of their life, they just listen. They absorb the sounds, the rhythms, the patterns. And then, gradually, they start to speak. First single words, then short phrases, then full sentences. They never studied grammar. They never memorized vocabulary lists. They just listened until their brain understood the patterns. That's how humans learn language, through input. And as adult learners, we need the same thing. We need massive amounts of listening input. Now, I'm not saying you should wait a year before speaking. You're an adult with an already developed language system in your brain. You can accelerate the process, but you still need input. Lots and lots of input. Here's why. When you listen to English every day, your brain unconsciously learns things that you couldn't learn from a textbook. It learns sentence structures. It learns which words go together naturally. It learns the rhythm of English, the music of the language. It learns when to stress words, when to pause, when to rise and fall in intonation. All of this happens automatically without you trying. Your brain is incredibly good at pattern recognition. You just have to give it the data. Let me give you an example from my own life. I studied Spanish in school for years. I learned grammar rules, I memorized vocabulary, I could conjugate verbs perfectly on a test. But when I went to Spain, I couldn't have a conversation. I was too slow. I couldn't understand people when they spoke at normal speed. Then I started watching Spanish TV shows every day, just one episode per day. I didn't worry about understanding everything. I just watched. And something amazing happened. After a few months, I could suddenly understand more. Sentences that used to confuse me made sense. My responses came faster. I hadn't studied more grammar. I hadn't memorized more words. I had just listened. My brain had absorbed the patterns. That's the power of input. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Sadie, I listen to English all the time and I still can't speak. And I believe you, but here's the key. Not all listening is equal. If you're listening to English that's too difficult, your brain can't process it. It's just noise. You need to listen to English that's at your level. English where you can understand at least 50% of what you hear. At that level, your brain can work. It can guess the meaning of unknown words from context. It can notice patterns. It can learn. So, here's my advice. Find English audio that you enjoy and that you can mostly understand. It could be a podcast, an audiobook, a YouTube channel, whatever keeps your interest. And listen to it every day, not as background noise while you do other things, but with focus. Give it your attention for at least 10 to 15 minutes a day. Don't stress about understanding every word. Even 50% is enough. Your brain will fill in the gaps over time. Just let the English wash over you. Let your brain absorb the patterns. This is the foundation. This is how you build the raw material that conversation is made from. Input first, then output. Listen first, then speak. If you liked this lesson, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you can keep improving your English with us. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful tools in language learning, repetition. I know. It sounds boring, it sounds simple, maybe even too simple to work. But here's the thing, your brain learns through repetition. That's just how the human brain works. Every time you hear a sentence, every time you read a phrase, every time you say a word, your brain creates a connection. The first time, it's a weak connection, like a tiny path through a forest. Easy to lose, easy to forget. But every time you encounter that same language again, the connection gets stronger. The path gets wider. It becomes a road. And eventually, with enough repetition, it becomes a highway, a connection so strong and automatic that you don't even have to think about it. This is called strengthening neural pathways, and it's the foundation of all skill development. Let me give you an example. Think about your phone number. You've said it so many times that you can recite it without thinking, right? You don't have to remember each digit individually. The whole number just flows out automatically. That's repetition at work. Now, imagine if you could do that with English sentences. Imagine if common phrases just flowed out of your mouth automatically without you having to construct them word by word. That's what repetition does. So here's a simple but powerful strategy. Listen to the same audio multiple times, not just once, multiple times. I know, it sounds boring, it sounds simple, maybe even too simple to work. But each time you listen, you get something different out of it. The first time you listen, you understand the general idea, the gist. The second time, you catch details you missed. You understand more words. The third time, you start to notice pronunciation. You notice how words connect together. You notice the rhythm. And the fourth time, that's when magic happens. You can start to speak along with the audio. This is called shadowing, and it's one of the best techniques for improving your speaking. Here's how it works. You play an audio recording, and you try to speak at the same time as the speaker. You literally shadow them, following their words like a shadow follows a person. You match their speed, their intonation, their pronunciation. At first, this feels really difficult. You can't keep up. You stumble over words. You get tongue-tied. That's normal. That's good. That means your mouth is learning. Because here's what shadowing does. It trains your mouth muscles to form English sounds. It trains your brain to think at the speed of conversation. It trains you to stop translating and start speaking. It builds what we call muscle memory in your mouth. Think about it. Speaking English requires your tongue, lips, and jaw to move in very specific ways that might be completely different from your native language. Your mouth needs practice. Just like a musician's fingers need practice or a dancer's feet need practice. Shadowing gives your mouth that practice. And the beautiful thing is, you can do this alone. You don't need a conversation partner. You just need audio and your own voice. I remember when I first discovered shadowing, I was trying to improve my French pronunciation, which was honestly terrible. So I found a French podcast I liked, and I started shadowing it. Just 5 minutes a day. At first, I sounded ridiculous. I couldn't keep up. My pronunciation was all wrong, but I kept going. And after a few weeks, something clicked. My mouth got used to the sounds. I could match the speaker's speed. My pronunciation improved dramatically, not because I studied pronunciation rules, because I practiced the physical act of speaking English. That's the power of shadowing. So here's what I recommend. After you've listened to the same audio 2 or 3 times, try shadowing a small part of it. Just 1 minute. Just one paragraph. Play it and speak along. Don't worry about being perfect. Just try to match the speaker. Do this a few times per week, and you'll be amazed at how much your speaking improves. Your pronunciation gets better, your speed increases, your confidence grows. Because you're not just learning English, you're practicing the physical skill of speaking English. And that makes all the difference. Now let's talk about some practical principles that will make your conversation practice more effective and less stressful. Because here's the truth, a lot of learners make their speaking practice harder than it needs to be. They try to speak perfectly. They try to use complex vocabulary. They worry about every grammar mistake. And all of that creates stress, and stress shuts down your ability to speak. So let me give you some principles that will help you practice more effectively. Principle number 1, start simple. When you're starting to develop your conversation skills, your goal is not to sound impressive. Your goal is to communicate. That means using simple language, short sentences, words you already know. Don't try to speak fast. Don't try to use advanced vocabulary. Don't try to sound like a native speaker. Just focus on being understood. If you want to say something, but you don't know the exact word, describe it using other words. For example, maybe you want to say chef, but you can't remember the word. So instead you say, the person who cooks food in a restaurant. That's completely fine. You communicated, the other person understood, mission accomplished. This is called circumlocution, talking around a word you don't know. It's a valuable skill. And here's the thing, native speakers do this too. We forget words all the time, and we just describe what we mean using other words. So don't feel bad about it. It's a normal part of communication. Principle number 2, don't worry too much about grammar at the beginning. I know, grammar is important. Eventually, you need good grammar to speak clearly. But at the very beginning, when you're just starting to develop conversation skills, grammar is not your priority. Communication is your priority. If you say, I go yesterday to the store, instead of I went to the store yesterday, yes, that's grammatically incorrect. But did the other person understand you? Yes, so it's okay. You communicated successfully. As you practice more, as you listen more, your grammar will naturally improve. You'll start to notice patterns. You'll start to say things correctly without thinking about it. But if you worry too much about grammar at the beginning, you'll freeze. You'll be too afraid to speak, and not speaking is much worse than speaking with grammar mistakes. Principle number 3, consistency beats intensity. This is probably the most important principle of all. A lot of learners think, okay, I'm going to practice conversation for 2 hours this weekend, and then they do nothing for the rest of the week. That doesn't work. Think of it like going to the gym. If you go to the gym once a week and work out for 3 hours, you'll be exhausted and you won't build much muscle. But if you go for 30 minutes every day, you'll build strength consistently and see real results. Speaking English is the same. Short, daily practice is infinitely better than long, sporadic practice.
Even just 15 minutes a day will make a huge difference if you do it every day. So make English part of your daily life. Listen to a podcast while you commute. Talk to yourself while you cook. Describe what you see while you walk. Just a little bit every single day. That's how you build the skill. Principle number 4. You don't need a native speaker to practice. A lot of learners think, I can't practice speaking because I don't know any native English speakers. But here's the truth. You can practice by yourself. Talk to yourself, out loud, in English. I know it sounds weird, maybe even a little crazy, but it's incredibly effective. Describe your day. Explain what you're doing. Ask yourself questions and answer them. What am I doing right now? I'm making coffee. Why am I making coffee? Because I'm tired. Why am I tired? Because I didn't sleep well last night. See? You're having a conversation with yourself. You're forming sentences. You're thinking in English. And the more you do this, the more comfortable your mouth gets with English sounds, the more automatic English becomes. I did this when I was learning Portuguese. I felt ridiculous at first, talking to myself in my apartment. But it worked. It helped me think in Portuguese. It helped me respond faster when I did have real conversations. So don't wait for the perfect conversation partner. Start practicing right now, by yourself. These principles might seem simple, but they're powerful. They remove the unnecessary stress and focus on what actually matters: communication, consistency, and practice.
Now let's talk about fluency itself, what it really means, and what the journey looks like. Because I think a lot of learners have the wrong idea about fluency. They think fluency means speaking like a native speaker, speaking fast, speaking with perfect pronunciation. But that's not what fluency is. Fluency simply means speaking naturally and clearly, without long, unnatural pauses. It means expressing your ideas in a way that other people can understand and enjoy listening to. It doesn't mean speaking fast. Some native speakers talk slowly. Some talk quickly. Both are fluent. It doesn't mean having a perfect accent. There are millions of fluent English speakers around the world with different accents. Fluency is about clarity, about naturalness, about communication. And here's what the journey to fluency looks like. Stage 1, mental translation. At first, when you try to speak English, you think in your native language, then you translate each word into English in your head, then you speak. This is slow and exhausting. It creates long, unnatural pauses. It feels unnatural. Everyone starts here. It's completely normal. Stage 2, thinking in phrases. After some practice, something starts to change. You stop translating word by word. Instead, you start remembering whole phrases. Someone asks, "How are you?" And you don't think, "I am fine." You just say, "I'm fine, thanks." The phrase comes out as a unit. You're not thinking about the grammar. You're not thinking about the individual words. You just know the phrase. This is when speaking starts to feel easier, more natural. Stage 3, automatic conversation. Eventually, with enough practice, you reach a stage where speaking just happens. Someone asks you a question and you respond. You don't plan your sentence. You don't translate. You don't think about grammar. You just speak. Your brain has internalized the patterns. Your mouth knows the movements. Everything is automatic. This is fluency. And here's the beautiful part. You can reach this stage. Maybe not in a month, maybe not in 3 months, but with consistent practice, you will get there. I've seen it happen hundreds of times with learners I've worked with. They start hesitant,
translating every word, speaking in broken sentences. And then, gradually, something shifts. Phrases start flowing. Pauses get shorter. Confidence grows. And one day, they're just speaking, naturally, fluently. Not because they studied harder, because they practiced consistently.
We've been talking for about 30 minutes now about conversation skills, about listening, repetition, shadowing, about simplicity, consistency, and practice. And maybe some of what I said resonated with you. Maybe some of it gave you hope. I hope it did, because you can do this. You can develop conversation skills. You can become fluent. You can speak English naturally and confidently. It's not about talent. It's about practice. The right kind of practice done consistently. So let me leave you with a simple action plan. A plan that, if you follow it for 3 months, will completely change your conversation ability. Step 1. Listen to 10 to 15 minutes of English every day. Find audio at your level. Make it a non-negotiable part of your day. Step 2. Listen to the same audio 3 times. Once for the gist, twice for details, 3 times to notice pronunciation. Step 3. After your second listen, try shadowing one small part. Just 1 minute. Practice matching the speaker's words and rhythm. Step 4. Speak out loud every day. Talk to yourself. Describe your day. Explain your thoughts. Get comfortable with your English voice. Step 5. Review common conversation phrases regularly. Make them automatic. That's it. 5 simple steps. Nothing complicated, nothing overwhelming. Just consistent, focused practice. If you do this for 3 months, I promise you, you will see change. Your confidence will grow. Your sentences will flow more naturally. Your brain will stop translating and start speaking. Conversation will start to feel natural, because you'll have treated it like the skill it is. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I believe in you. I believe you can develop these skills, and I'm here every day to help you on that journey. So start today. Start with step 1, just 10 to 15 minutes of listening. And then tomorrow, do it again. And the next day. And the next. Little by little, you'll build the skill. Little by little, you'll become the speaker you want to be. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep listening, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. You've got this. This is Sadie, and I'll talk to you soon.